Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending today's event. I'm just going to share my screen so you see the presentation. All right. So just waiting maybe a minute or so before everyone can jump onto the call. Had a lot of interest in this topic. So clearly people are thinking about how they can stand out from the crowd. So we'll just wait about 30 seconds. Thank you, Cindy, for coming. Lara, Michelle H, Katerina, Jeremy, Justin. Just want to make sure everyone can see my screen. If you want to leave a message, if you can see the screen, the presentation, that would be great. Hey, Luke, Ryan. Awesome. Great crowd here. Okay, excellent. Thanks, Michelle, for my and Cindy for my screen check. This is the first time that I've used crowdcast.io. It's a really cool webinar platform. I had a bit of a panic attack earlier because I ended the broadcast and couldn't figure out how to reset it. So we're all looking good now. Okay, so let's wait 30 seconds and then we can get going. People are still coming in. This is awesome to see this many people. Everyone's had a great summer. Looking forward to Labor Day, and we'll see what happens in September. Personally, I'm not sure about how things are going to go, whether people are just going to charge back in or not, but we'll see what's happening. Okay, so why don't we get started just so we're aware of everyone's time. This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. I think that clear and compelling positioning is the difference between failure and success. And I don't mean to be overly dramatic, but the reality is that if you have great positioning and a great product, that's a 1-2 punch. If you have a great product and bad positioning, then you're at a competitive disadvantage. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how to create B2B SaaS strategic positioning that makes an impact. And you can apply this to your B2C business or your B2B business. But the idea is to have positioning that helps to propel your business forward. So a little bit about me, if you aren't familiar with who I am and what I do. I'm a fractional CMO for B2B SaaS companies who want to attract and engage better prospects and grow sales. So essentially what I do is help companies and entrepreneurs do the right kind of marketing at the right time. And my expertise is focused on obviously positioning and messaging, planning, and content-driven marketing strategies. And I work as a part-time CMO, strategic advisor, and coach. I'm based in Toronto. And when I'm not doing webinars and marketing, I play a lot of tennis, up and down, and hockey. So those are my passions. So the agenda for today really is we're going to start and look at what is positioning and why does it matter. I'm going to look at what positioning isn't, because there's some misconceptions out there about what positioning involves. We're going to talk about how to tell when your positioning is not working. I'll walk you through my 10-step do-it-yourself positioning framework so that you can actually create and improve your own positioning. We'll look at how to capitalize on positioning and drive ROI, because positioning for the sake of positioning doesn't really give you what you need. And then we'll do Q&A at the end. Now, if you look at the bottom of the screen, there's a ask a question button, and you can click on that and ask a question. I'll try to answer questions on the fly, or we can wait till the end. Okay, great. So what is strategic positioning? This is a loaded question, so let's get into it, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what it is and isn't. And I'm just going to look at it from a high level. It's a high-level exercise that sets your business apart. And I think in this day and age, this is more important than ever, because if you don't stand out, then you disappear into the crowd. And that's not the place where you want to be. You're entrepreneurs, you're business people. You want to resonate with prospects and customers. You want to be the choice. So that's what positioning, the essence of strategic positioning. Because amid a sea of choices and possibilities, strategic positioning clearly defines 4 key pillars. And I can't emphasize that if you nail these 4 pillars, then your positioning, your sales, your marketing is going to make an impact. What you do, who you serve, the value delivered, and how you're unique. Now, if you step back, these are fairly straightforward. In fact, they're completely obvious. But you would be surprised by how many companies do a terrible job of answering these questions. And as a result, prospects are confused, unclear, and they just don't get what you do. And in this day and age, when people are multitasking and time strapped, if they don't understand what you do right away, they leave and they move on to the next competitor. That's the reality of it. So positioning matters more than ever. And positioning matters because it helps people understand why you matter to them. And I want to emphasize that a lot of companies make the mistake of being product centric. They're focused on what their product does, the benefits, the features, the prices. And I don't mean to be somewhat irreverent, but they don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about your product. They don't care about their technology. They care about themselves. So your positioning, your marketing, your sales has to be focused on why you matter to them. And that's the bottom line, because it's what they want to hear, not what you want to tell them. It makes your brand and product the obvious choice. And this is where you want to be. You want people to think, well, there's no other product to purchase, no other service to use other than brand X, because their positioning is so powerful and it resonates with me. And it shapes how prospects and customers see your brand and products. And this is a great quote from Marty Neumeier. Companies need positioning because consumers have choices, and if you don't stand out, you lose. And that's the reality of the situation. And this is why I picked this quote, because it really captures the essence of positioning. Now, look, I'll give you an example. In every market, there are dozens, if not hundreds of companies that do the same thing. They walk like you, they talk like you, they have the same benefits, features, and prices. So how do you stand out? So for an example, look at the online accounting market. There are dozens, if not hundreds of companies. You've got QuickBooks, Sage, Xero, and Wave. Now, if you take a look, QuickBooks, Sage, and Xero all have the same positioning. They're software, accounting software for small business. But look at Wave. Inside work, there's a passion, and inside you, there's a brave entrepreneur. That's excellent positioning because it makes them stand out. It makes people curious. It's something that an entrepreneur can aspire to. They want to be a brave entrepreneur. They have passion. And that's the kind of thing, this is the kind of creativity that makes messaging really, really work. If you sound the same as everybody else, even if your product's better, how can you stand out? How can you make an impact with the people that matter to you? So how do brands stand out? Well, positioning is the obvious thing. And I'll give you a few examples of how brands selling the same product can carve out a very distinct position in the marketplace. Number one is Allstate. Now, insurance isn't the most exciting product in the world, but with Allstate, they've been running with the positioning that you're in good hands for years. And so what this positioning does is it builds confidence. It allows people to believe that they're making the right choice, because that has a lot to do with your marketing and sales. People have to feel that it is the choice for them. It's the right choice for them. So Allstate has gone with what's really what I would call it's almost like comfort positioning. Like you feel comfortable when you hear this positioning. On the other hand, you've got Geico, which says 15 minutes could save you 15% or more in car insurance. So what they're doing is obviously taking advantage of the gecko, but their positioning has to do with price. Whereas Allstate is about comfort and knowing that you're not going to make a mistake. Geico is about the fact that, hey, come to us and we'll save you money. Same products, different positioning. Another example is Chipotle. Now, Chipotle among their positioning is that it's real food for real people. So that's why they're talking about real chickens. It's natural, it's good for you, the ingredients are top quality. And so they're appealing to people that matters to them. They want good food, they want healthy food. but they also want to eat burritos. So it's the best of both worlds. On the other hand, you've got Taco Bell, 89 cents for a cheesy double-decker taco. Now that's completely different positioning from Chipotle, and it's based on price, but it appeals to a completely different demographic. And their main consideration is low prices. So give me a lot for a little. Again, the same product, mostly in the same product in many different ways, but completely different positioning. And this is the way that you can carve out a distinct ability. You have to be different in the marketplace, and you just have to pick the flavor that's right for you, right for your brand values. Positioning can leverage small differences. A couple of weeks ago, I was driving down the street and there was this truck blocking the road. At first, I was annoyed. So when I managed to get around, I noticed that this is a company that they're experts in heating and cooling for older Toronto homes. There are lots of HVAC companies out there, and all of them are pretty good. But if you can position yourself as being the HVAC company for older Toronto homes, then you stand out in the marketplace. And this is a good place to be. Another example is positioning can be creative, different, or funny. Now, funny is hard to pull off, but if you can do it, it can work well. So this is a plumbing company. And their motto is, it's a stinky business and we love it. And their telephone number is stinky. Again, very distinct, creative messaging. And this is something that you can embrace too if you want to stand out from the crowd. So let's get into what positioning is not. And this is important because, as I said off the top, there are misconceptions of what positioning is and isn't. So positioning is not a tagline. It's not a logo. It's not an elevator pitch. It's not a list of benefits. It's not a mission statement. It's not a vision statement. And let's sort of remember that, put that aside for now in terms of what you get from a positioning exercise. Before we get into that, let's look into how do you know your positioning isn't working? And this is something that a lot of companies need to focus on, because it's very easy to get complacent with your positioning if you've in fact developed positioning, or whether you're struggling with your sales and marketing and you want to get an indication of why it's not working. And there's some signs that your positioning is not working. Number one is your business has grown and your story is different. So think about Salesforce when it started. It was no software, and it ran with the no software positioning for years. But then Salesforce started to make acquisitions. It bought Pardot and Marketo and Radiant 6 and a lot of other companies. And then the Salesforce message was no longer, I mean, it is still no software, but the message got different because it became like an enterprise marketing suite. And so Salesforce's positioning had to change because the story was different. Their product suite was different, and they were trying to appeal to different types of customers in different ways. Your rivals have adopted new positioning. So in a sense, what they've done is they've switched horses in mid-race. They've decided that what consumers want and how they're going to appeal to them has changed. Consumer demands are different. The market is different. The competitive landscape is different because there's new rivals that have appeared on the scene. So they've decided to try new positioning, adopt something different. And this is something that you as a company have to keep in mind. You have to take a look at the competitive landscape to see how your rivals are positioning themselves, because they could be doing something completely different, position themselves in a completely new and unique way, and you're stuck with your old positioning. So a key part of positioning is not only reflecting on your own positioning, but watching what other people are doing. Your product has changed, and your customers are using it in different ways. I mean, this is a natural evolution for every company. Your product just doesn't stand still. You're innovating, you're trying new things, you're moving forward, your customers are asking for different features. And so in time, your product can evolve, and the value that your product delivers and the customers that it serves can also evolve, even in a small way. So you need to make sure that your positioning reflects that, because if you're telling a story about A, but your product is B, then there's a disconnect, and that's not where you want to be. Your sales pitches in deck aren't resonating. I mean, as a salesperson, the biggest indication that you're doing well is people are asking questions. Like they're curious, they're excited, they're intrigued. But when your message falls flat, when your story falls flat, then you've got a positioning problem. Clearly, what you're saying isn't resonating. The benefits that you're trying to highlight, the way that your product is positioned to the people that matter to you, doesn't work anymore. And so you got to take a step back, because positioning underpins your marketing and your sales. And so if your sales pitches are off, if you're not getting prospects excited about what's next and how your product can deliver to them, then you got a positioning problem. Your website bounce rates are higher and your conversions are lower. This is something that Google Analytics will tell you, but you've got to dig deep. And one of the main causes for websites that don't perform are that your position doesn't resonate. People see your messaging, which comes with positioning, and it doesn't work for them anymore. And then they quickly move on to something else. And I must say that there's a study that shows that people will decide in seconds whether what your product is relevant or not before they move on to something. So if you have good positioning, which leads to better messaging, which leads to better website copy, then you're going to do well. If not, then you're going to lose. And your advertising campaigns aren't performing. You're putting your message out there. You're talking about how your product meets the needs of the people that matter to you, and it's not working. There's lots of different reasons why advertising doesn't work, including the fact that there's lots of competition. But I would argue that positioning is a key part of that. So let's look at the 10-step framework to develop positioning that makes an impact. And just take a pause here. Is any questions? Anybody have any questions? What's going on? You can ask a question, or you can put something in the chat. I'm going to be covering a lot of ground in a short period of time. So you can wait, or you can ask now. But if not, we'll move forward. Okay. So let's look at this 10-step framework. And this is the framework that I use with all my clients. In fact, where I start with all my clients is position. No matter where they're at with their marketing, I always want to make sure that their positioning resonates, their positioning is updated, and actually reflects their product and the values delivered. Okay. So number one is state of the union. And it really is sort of taking a step back, an honest step back, and looking at how effective is your positioning. What are the signs that it's not as effective as it should be? We want to look at who within the organization wants to change the positioning. Is it the CEO, the CMO, the head of sales? And what are their motivations? What are the reasons why they want to change positioning? Is it because of competitive threats? Is it simply because they're tired of the old positioning? Are they getting feedback from customers who are confused about what your product does and why it matters to them? You really want to dig deep in the organization. You can talk to customer success, customer service, sales, marketing, product development, because if you're going to change your positioning, then you really want to start from why are we doing this? Where do we want to go? What's happening? What's not working? And as important, it's important, you need to understand, for everyone to understand what you're going to do and why. The right positioning is important, so ensure that everyone's aligned on how you're going to move forward. So that's step one. Step two is the spotlight on you. And by that, I mean, take a deep look into the fundamental questions. What do you do? Who do you serve? How does your product meet the needs or pains of the people who matter to you? And how are you different? Again, going back to the 4 key pillar questions. And if you do anything at all, if you get anything out of this webinar, is go back to the office or go back to the Zoom meeting or however you want to meet these days and ask yourself these 4 questions. And if you got the answers bang on, then you're doing well. If you're not abundantly clear, then you've got a problem. And the thing about this step is it requires honesty and an in-depth look at your customers and prospects. And my advice is talk to a number of your customers and prospects to understand their needs, motivations, how they're using your product, and why they purchased it. And don't be surprised if you're surprised by what they tell you. Number 3, and this is this is obviously something I hinted at in the last slide, is the people who matter. So who are your prospects and customers? Who is your ideal customer profile? What are their motivations, their dreams, their aspirations, their pains, their problems? What are they doing right now to solve the problem or do the job that your product delivers? Like, what is their life right now? And what are the problems that they're having that is holding them back, is making them inefficient, is they're not getting the success that they want? And the more you know about your customers, the better your positioning is going to be, the better your marketing is going to be, and the better your sales is going to be. And I cannot overemphasize the importance of talking to your customers and prospects. A lot of people walk the walk, but they don't talk the talk. They say that customers matter to them, but then never talk to them. And so whether you meet them at a conference or you call them on the phone or you do a Zoom meeting, whatever it is, you've got to talk to your customers and you've got to do it on a regular basis. Next is obviously like, who else is out there? You know, the reality is that positioning doesn't happen in a vacuum. Every company, as I said earlier, has dozens, if not hundreds of competitors who sell the same products at the same prices and use the same marketing channels. So what are their strengths and weaknesses? How are they better than you? What makes them successful? What's their positioning? How do they stand apart? A positioning exercise is not just about you, but it's about intelligence and insight about the companies battling for the same customers. So you have to do an in-depth competitive audit to discover how different companies are positioned. And you have to be honest and concede that some companies are better at it than you do. Their positioning resonates, it stands out, it's more creative, it's more powerful. And that's a telltale sign that your positioning needs to get better, and it needs to happen very, very quickly. Seeing the big picture. Again, this has to do with insight and intelligence of what's happening around you. Your business operates in a competitive, evolving market. The technology changes and improves. Customers are looking for new ways to solve their problems, and new competitors emerge focused on different problems and using different approaches. So you have to take a step back and figure out, where's the industry going? What are the key industry trends? What are the things that are important to customers? Who are the biggest threats right now from a competitive perspective, both in terms of established players and new players? And then how do you put together a strategy about how to move forward with not only your positioning, but your marketing and sales? Take a strategic approach. And there are, as you saw earlier, there are different themes to positioning. It's not a one-size-fits-all proposition. So it can be based on price or brand values, such as all natural foods, or it can be based on speed. Domino's, for example, is based on speed. Walmart's position is based on low prices. Nike is about achieving your personal goals. Amazon position is about better shopping experience. A key part of positioning is identifying the strategic theme that works for you and aligns with your customers. The next step is boil down the ocean. So the positioning exercise generates a lot of insights and information about your company, customers, competitors, and the industry. Now, you need to explore and examine everything to identify the most interesting ideas, keywords, and concepts. In an ideal world, when you go through the positioning exercise, when you talk to your customers, when you do a competitive audit, a few strong themes will emerge. Now, it may take some time or it may be obvious. Now, for example, I worked with a client who rejected the positioning that I developed, but loved one word: flexibility. It resonated because it was how they serve customers. We then went from that one word and developed a new positioning. So it can happen quickly, but it can take time. And so you have to go through the process to identify the themes that are going to emerge. And sometimes it takes patience, but that's the key to positioning. You will get there, but it might take longer than you think. Next is to craft and draft your positioning. And this is when rubber hits the road. It's time to create a positioning statement, value propositions, and a positioning statement, which we'll talk about a bit later, is 2 or 3 sentences that encapsulate what you do, who you serve, the value you deliver, and how you're unique. Again, going back to the 4 pillars. Again, it's a theme, right? 4 pillars matter. And those are the things you need to focus on. And then the next step is, once you develop positioning, you cannot develop positioning in a vacuum. Just before you unleash your positioning, you got to test it. You got to get feedback from customers, partners, and employees. You got to insert your positioning into sales decks and advertising to see if it resonates with prospects. You're looking to see what works and what doesn't. You're looking to see if people get what you do and how you deliver. And if you're getting a positive response, if you're getting people who are nodding their heads or asking questions to get more insight about your positioning, then you know you're on the right track, and you'll feel more confident when your positioning is unleashed. And the final step is pollination, and we'll talk about this in a bit, but it really is about getting your positioning and putting it pretty much everywhere where you do sales and marketing. So what do you get at the end of a positioning process? Well, you get the following. You get a positioning statement, value proposition, an ideal customer profile, a competitive positioning audit, which looks at the positioning of all your key rivals, and you get a positioning map. Now, what you might be asking yourself, is that it? Like, after I go through a positioning exercise that can take anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, then why are the deliverables, why is there such a relatively small list of deliverables? And the best analogy I can give is that if you look, it's akin to a duck. When you see a duck on a lake, and then it's calm and it's floating around and it looks really relaxed, but underneath it's furiously moving its feet. And that's the thing about positioning, because think of all the elements that are involved in terms of positioning statement. You've got to look internally at your own product and your own positioning. You got to do your competitive audit. You got to talk to your customers. You got to talk to prospects. You've got to talk to internal stakeholders. So not only senior executives, but different people within the organization. You've got to boil down the ocean. You got to take all this information and you've got to synthesize it to come up with a few key deliverables. Then you got to test it, and then you got to pollinate it. And that's a lot of work. Those are a lot of steps. And at the end of the day, you get positioning that is powerful, compelling, crystal clear, and really captures the essence of what your company does, who it serves, why it matters, and how you're different. And that gives you a powerful place to drive forward with your sales and marketing. So I just want to emphasize that, yes, it can look from the outside in like that's all that matters. But if you have great positioning, then the deliverables, the places you can go from there, there's a lot of runway for where you can go, and we'll talk about that. So a positioning template, and you can screen capture this template, and this is really the essence, and it answers the 4 questions. And so just take a look at this for a second. So basically it's for a target audience who wants to, whatever the job is to be done, our product, whatever your product is, delivers these benefits to solve these pains. And unlike our competitors, we're different. So screen capture this. And if you would like, what you can do is fill it out by yourself and send it to me, and I will provide you with feedback and recommendations about how you can improve your positioning. It's a great exercise to do internally, even if you don't ask me for feedback. It's a great way to get everybody on the same page and to find out what different people's perspectives are. And what I would suggest when you're doing this exercise is ask people to do it independently before you meet as a group, because you may be surprised by how they may look at your product and your position in a different way. So I'll give you an example of a position, and this is just sort of a fictional example. It's for content marketers, so the people that matter to you, that want to reach a bigger audience. So that's their goal, that's their objectives. Our AI-powered distribution platform, which is the product, generates updates. So this is the value that delivers for blog posts, ebooks, infographics, and videos for all the major social networks. And this is the value, eliminating manual and time-consuming work. And then how are you different? Unlike competitors, we'll give you complete control over when and where your content is distributed. Really simple, straightforward. Now, this can be polished. It can be maybe a little more creative, a little more pizzazz, but it gives you the sense of what a positioning statement is and how it can set the stage for a lot of the other things that you're going to do. Value proposition is a clear statement on why a customer would buy from you. And I'll just give you one example. And this is another deliverable for positioning is Disney. We create happiness by providing the best in entertainment for people of all ages everywhere. It's a pretty powerful but simple value proposition. Now what? Like you're probably asking yourself, so I've gone through all the work of creating positioning. What do I do with it? Like I've got the value proposition, I've got a positioning statement, I've got an ideal customer profile. Well, what you do is you turn your positioning into messaging. And messaging can appear in different forms. So number one is a messaging document where you come up with your boilerplate. You can develop a 10, 25, 15, 100 word description of your companies. You can develop taglines, mission and vision statements. So all these things, all the things that we talked about at the beginning fall out of positioning. Website copy. Great positioning makes your homepage and your website that much more compelling, that much easier to understand. And I'll give you a few examples of good positioning. Now, this is a company called Ring DNA, and this is their positioning. Grow revenue faster, transform your sales team into a high-performance revenue engine. I have no idea what this company does. Like, seriously, I mean, this is so generic that it could be any company doing anything. So what I did is I created a new version for Ring DNA, and the better version is accelerate the sales cycle with insights that engage the right prospects, AI-driven data that delivers complete visibility into every step of the sales journey. I think mine's better. Disagree if you want to, but I just took what was on their website and reimagined it and rewrote it so that it's about the user rather than the product. It's about what's in it for user. What can they do? What can they get out of the product that you can't, that they can't right now? Another example is Chili Piper, complete meeting automation for revenue teams. I don't know what that means. Chili Pepper is the #1 meeting lifecycle automation platform, helping revenue teams connect with buyers faster across all stages of the customer lifecycle. I mean, I guess, I don't know who deemed Chili Piper to be the #1 meeting lifecycle automation platform. And in fact, I don't even know what a meeting lifecycle automation platform is. So when I saw this example, and this is a real example, I was like, I don't get it. Now, to their credit, Chili Piper made their positioning better. They improved it. Make meetings happen. Chili Piper's advanced scheduling software helps B2B revenue teams double their conversion rates, increase customer satisfaction, and reach new levels of productivity. Night and day. Unclear and really not sure about what this company does to totally clear about what you do and why I would want to sign up for a free trial or get a demo. So those are just two examples of a positioning, that difference between bad positioning and good positioning. Good positioning helps you reimagine your sales decks. It really puts the focus on being clear, crystal clear about what your product, how your product meets the needs, solves the problems, helps prospects and get jobs done. And that's a key to a sales deck. Again, your prospects don't care about your technology or how your product works, at least from the get-go. What they care about is themselves, right? Product roadmaps. You know, sometimes product can lead positioning forward, and sometimes positioning can lead product forward. It all has to do with how your product meets the needs of your customers, the people that matter. So make sure that your product roadmap and your positioning are aligned. You don't want to disconnect between the two. If your product is going in one direction, your positioning is going in the other, then you've got a problem. So make sure that they work together, make sure they work in unison. Content marketing, obvious. You know, if you know about your customers, you know about their problems, and you have a product that solves their problems and their pains or helps them do amazing things, then your content marketing can reflect that. Okay, so I'm going to give you two resources so you can do your own positioning. One is an ebook that I published recently, a positioning crash course for B2B SaaS companies. This will walk you through my entire framework and give you examples of how to do positioning and how not to. And I will follow up with an email to all of you. And the other one is my positioning canvas. And this is really a worksheet that you can use as you go through the positioning exercise. They work together. It helps you answer the key questions about how to develop positioning that makes an impact. And so that's the webinar for today. I hope that we've covered a lot of ground in 35 minutes. I wanted to make the most of the time. I moved pretty quickly. I hope that I've given you a sense of what positioning is and why it matters and what you can do with it. There are different ways you can connect with me. Obviously, I'm big on LinkedIn. I post on a regular basis. You can connect with me there. I encourage you, if we're not already connected, please connect. I have a newsletter that comes out 3 times a week. Offering what I call mini insight, mini guidance, mini thoughts. It's a great way to get some different perspectives on B2B marketing. So please connect with me, subscribe to the newsletter, send me an email if you've got any questions, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you've got right now. You can ask a question, and we got some questions, which is great. Okay. So the question is, you draw from a number of B2B examples. What can B2B marketers learn from B2B brands? I would say that it's all about the customer. Like the common denominator when you're doing positioning, whether you're B2B or B2C, is that what do your customers want? Like, what are they trying to, what are their aspirations? What are their goals? What are the experiences that they're trying to achieve? So for example, Airbnb has amazing positioning as a B2C company. Their positioning is not, we're an online service to book places to stay around the world. It is, but their positioning is, we allow you to experience different places, different people, and feel like you belong anywhere. That's great positioning. And that has to do with the customer and what they want to achieve, the things that they want to do, how they want to get things done. And so I would say that's the common denominator. It's not any more complicated than that. Will you share a copy of this presentation with attendees? Absolutely. I will share the presentation in the email that you will get. When you're registered, you got a series of emails from me, and I will follow up with an email on that. Any other questions that you have? You can leave a question. You can ask a question in the chat. When there was a question, can you say more about the strategic step in the framework? You're talking about the right, the strategic step in the framework. Okay, so there, I will, in the ebook, I provide a little more information on that. The strategic step is really about deciding how strategically you're going to approach positioning. So as I mentioned, your position can be based around price. It can focus on speed. It can focus on convenience. It can focus on the fact that you're a specialist like that HVAC company. So it's really strategic themes that I'm talking about. And the idea that pick a story that really reflects the power of your product or service. And so if you are the fastest pizza delivery company in your city, then and speed matters to your customers, and that could be the theme for your positioning. If you have the most selection like Amazon, then that could be the key theme. Whatever you feel that how your product resonates and how it stands apart, then I would run with that strategic theme. Is positioning and category definition related? Absolutely. One of the things, I mean, they're two different exercises, but one of the things is if you're going to, they work hand in hand, because if you're going to define a new category, or if you are going to move into a category that is fairly nascent, there's not a lot of competitors, and positioning will help you stand out in that category, and positioning will help you establish that category as something that matters to the people that you want to resonate in. A question is, what positioning that you've seen that doesn't do, and what you should avoid? I think you can answer that question pretty clearly. If you go to a website and you don't understand right away, I'm talking within seconds, about what a company does and why it matters to you, then that's bad positioning. If you go to a website and you see right away, this company I know what they do. I know who they serve. I know why I would want to use them, even if you don't think you're a prospect, and that's powerful positioning. So it really comes down to being crystal clear about the 4 pillars that we talked earlier. That's good positioning. Bad positioning makes people ask questions. It's a head scratcher. Like Ring DNA, that's bad positioning. And you see that kind of positioning all the time. And I would say that for your own companies, ask yourself, like clearly ask yourself, does this answer the 4 pillars? And then get some different perspectives from people who aren't vested in your company or aren't vested in you, and ask them if they get what you do. That's the biggest way. How would you go about changing positioning from a value-based low-cost provider to a premium product? Well, I would say that if you are going to, you need to walk the walk and talk the talk. So if your product delights, if it delivers benefits that are amazing, if it makes your customers happy, then you have the foundation to change how you position that product. So it could be that when you first launched, is that your product was great, but you underpriced it. You were worried about getting a toehold in the marketplace, so that you underestimated the product's value, and as a result, you sold it at a lower price. And so what you might want to do, what you could do, is you could reposition the same product if it delivers amazing ROI, and then reposition it as a premium product. And now, obviously, you've got existing customers that you're going to have to deal with because they've already bought into your positioning, but it doesn't mean that you can't switch horses in mid-race. In fact, there was an earlier slide about doing exactly that. And so I think if your product does if it adds value and it makes customers happy, then absolutely you can explore changing your positioning. How long would you give to test a positioning statement? I don't think you need to give it a lot of time. I mean, you have to rate. I think it's more important to ask the right types of people. So prospects who don't know your product very well, customers who know your product, and you want to get a sense of whether they buy into what you're saying or not, because they know who you are and they've got experience with you. You can use like complete anonymous user testing to get people's reactions. So there's all kinds of A/B testing services that you can use. You can go to a conference and do some guerrilla marketing to get a sense of whether your testing resonates. You can try it out in sales conversations, and if people sort of just go along with the conversation, then So I would give it, it could be 2 to 4 weeks. I mean, you may know really quickly once you start testing it. But the key is, it's not a matter of length. It's a matter of really starting to get out there and talk to as many people as possible. And then you'll get some instant feedback. And how would you A/B test different positions or positioning statements? You could A/B test on your website. You could do sales presentations using different positioning, different messages to see what kind of questions you get. You could even do some test advertising, like try some Google ads, for example, with completely different messaging, different positioning, and see which one resonates. There's all kinds of ways that you can A/B test using different vehicles. Even do some anecdotal, you're at a conference and you test message A and message B. Those are the down and dirty ways to get. But again, it's about telling your story. But you can do one at a time or multiple. But the idea is to really sort of get a sense. You're doing a lot of testing and you're just trying to get as much information as possible, much feedback as possible. Any other questions? Okay, so we're at 45 minutes, which I think is pretty healthy. If you have any questions, ask now or forever hold your peace. Okay, great. Okay, so first, thanks for participating in the webinar. I hope I gave you some guidance in terms of what is positioning, what it isn't, examples of good and bad, and how to create your own position. I think that what I want to impart on you is that positioning is not complicated. You shouldn't be intimidated by positioning. It's a matter of really doing the work. And sometimes it can be grunt work and answering the key questions. And if you answer the 4 key questions, then your positioning is going to immediately get better. If you have questions about positioning, and what I do and how I may be able to help you, please email me or connect with me on LinkedIn. Again, I encourage you to subscribe to the newsletter. It's a great way to stay connected and to get bite-sized pieces of marketing advice 3 times a week. And if you want to text me or call me, feel free to do so. But yeah, thank you for coming, and stay tuned for more webinars on all things marketing. Talk to you later, everybody.